Once upon a time, there was a kind and beautiful girl named Cinderella. She lived with her wicked stepmother and two mean stepsisters who made her do all the chores. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters treated her like a servant. While they dressed in fancy clothes, Cinderella wore rags and cleaned the house from morning till night. One day, the king invited all the young ladies in the kingdom to a royal ball. The prince was looking for a bride, and the stepmother and stepsisters were excited. Cinderella wanted to go to the ball too, but her stepmother laughed and said, "You can't go in those rags." She gave Cinderella more chores so she couldn't even think about the ball. After her stepmother and stepsisters left for the ball, Cinderella sat by the fireplace and cried. She dreamed of wearing a beautiful dress and dancing at the royal palace. Suddenly, a fairy godmother appeared. She smiled and said, "Don't cry, Cinderella. You will go to the ball." With a wave of her wand, magic sparkled in the air. The fairy godmother turned a pumpkin into a golden carriage, mice into horses, and Cinderella's rags into a gorgeous gown with glass slippers. Cinderella couldn't believe her eyes. But remember, the fairy godmother warned, the magic will end at midnight. You must leave the ball before the clock strikes 12. Cinderella nodded excitedly. When Cinderella arrived at the royal palace, everyone gasped at her beauty. Even her stepmother and stepsisters didn't recognize her. The prince couldn't take his eyes off her. The prince asked Cinderella to dance, and they twirled around the grand ballroom. Cinderella felt like she was in a dream, but she knew she had to keep an eye on the time. As Cinderella and the prince danced, the clock began to strike midnight. "Oh no," she thought. She ran from the palace, leaving behind one of her glass slippers. The prince called out, but Cinderella had already disappeared. All that was left was the glass slipper she had dropped on the stairs. The next day, the prince searched the entire kingdom. He had the glass slipper and said, "I will marry the girl whose foot fits this shoe." Every girl tried, but it didn't fit. Finally, the prince arrived at Cinderella's house. Her stepsisters tried the slipper, but their feet were too big. Then Cinderella tried, and the slipper fit perfectly. The prince knew he had found his true love. Cinderella and the prince were married in a grand ceremony, and they lived happily ever after.